How are you feeling today? There are people who are so intelligent that their very intellect becomes a prison. They can analyze everything in life: love, pain, loss, and even the deepest mysteries of the human soul. But then, the moment they stand before their own emotions, they become as confused as a lost child. And the most tragic part is this: the more they understand, the less they live. Today's story is about a genius like that, a man who could see through the nature of humankind with philosophy, yet lost his real life because of his own mind. And perhaps, within him, you will see yourself. There are people born with a brain like a razor blade, sharp enough to touch the questions the world avoids, and sharp enough to make themselves bleed. Søren Kierkegaard was one of those people. He is considered the father of existentialism, a mind strong enough to open doors that philosophy had never dared to touch before. He wrote about anxiety, about meaninglessness, about the trembling of the abyss, concepts that take a lifetime for most people to grasp even a glimpse of. But here lies the paradox. A man can understand the nature of anxiety, yet not know how to live with it. A man can analyze freedom like a scholar, yet stumble over his own freedom. A genius can illuminate humanity, yet be drowned by the darkness within himself. Kierkegaard saw too much, thought too deeply, and felt too little. While life is not lived through analysis, but through presence, and in this incompatibility, he began to lose the most precious thing: his peace. That feeling, if you notice, is not just his story. It is also the story of many intelligent people, those who always know the right thing, but don't know how to live right. And the true tragedy of Kierkegaard only began when he met the woman who made his heart tremble for the first time. Then, one day, amid the dry pages of philosophy and long nights immersed in thought, Kierkegaard met Regine Olsen, not through intellect, but through the one thing he always avoided: his heart. Regine was not a philosopher, not a symbol of complexity. She was simply a young woman with gentle eyes and a warmth he had never known he longed for so deeply. And just like every man who falls in love for the first time, Kierkegaard became the softest version of himself. He wrote her long letters, both passionate and awkward. He proposed to her with all the sincerity his heart could endure. And for a brief moment, he believed that perhaps life would allow him a chance at happiness. But there is a truth that overly intelligent people often fail to realize. The heart does not operate like logic. The more we try to control it, the more we lose it. One August day, without warning, Kierkegaard broke off the engagement. Not because he stopped loving her, not because there was another person, not because she did anything wrong, but because he began to fear. Fear of responsibility, fear of pain, fear of not being enough. Fear that his heart, always unstable, would hurt the woman he loved most. And like any man overwhelmed by too many emotions, he did the cruelest thing. He withdrew. He told her that within him was something demonic, a darkness he didn't want to drag her into. He believed that letting her go was the only way to protect her from his own instability. But the most heartbreaking part was this: Regine did not want to leave. She tried to hold on, tried to understand, tried to wait. And at that very moment, Kierkegaard chose the cruelest path for someone who loves truly. He pretended to be a bad man so she would let go sooner. He said things that hurt her heart. He behaved like a jerk so she would believe he was unworthy. But all of it was just a clumsy performance of a heart that didn't know how to speak honestly. He loved her so deeply that he turned himself into a demon so she could be free. An act that was wrong, painful, yet profoundly human. Because sometimes, those who feel not enough hurt the ones they love most, believing they are protecting them. Perhaps you have seen that in someone or in yourself. There is a hidden fear carried by many intelligent people, and Kierkegaard carried it too. The fear of feeling. What does feeling mean? It means allowing emotions to touch you, allowing sadness to make you weak, allowing love to make you vulnerable, allowing joy to make you dependent, allowing real hurt to be possible. It means no longer standing outside observing, but stepping into the arena of the heart. And that is what makes overly intelligent people uneasy, because emotions have no formula, no analysis, no prediction, no control. That is why, when he loved Regine, Kierkegaard panicked, not because the love was wrong, but because love demanded that he feel for real. And instead of feeling, he thought. Instead of experiencing, he analyzed. Instead of facing, he hid inside philosophy. He turned anxiety into arguments, turned pain into concepts, turned love into an existential problem. He wrote about anxiety with brilliance admired by generations, but he could not withstand the anxiety inside his own heart. This is the paradox of those who intellectualize their emotions. They use the mind to avoid being touched by feeling. They analyze to avoid hurting. They think to avoid living. In psychology, this is intellectualization, the most refined defense mechanism, where reason becomes a wall that shields the heart from being scratched again. Looking at Kierkegaard, we see ourselves in him, knowing much but living little, understanding deeply but feeling shallowly, skilled at analysis but clumsy with our own hearts. And that is where the true tragedy begins. The anxiety inside Kierkegaard was not a light, fleeting feeling. It was a pull, an existential tremor, a state he called the dizziness of freedom. Freedom gives us countless choices, and precisely because there are too many choices, people begin to fear of choosing wrong, fear of losing what they already have, fear of losing their own self-image, fear that the future will not match the plan, fear that they will not be good enough for the one they love. Intelligent people are especially prone to this because they see every scenario that could happen. They see risks that others never imagine. They see the path, but do not dare to walk it. In love, Kierkegaard's anxiety awakened violently. What if I make her suffer? What if I'm not good enough? What if I become a burden? If my life is full of darkness, can she endure it? The more questions, the greater the fear. And like many intelligent people, he believed that the more he analyzed, the more answers he would find. But real life is brutally honest. The more we think, the more we fear. The more we fear, the more we lose what matters most. Anxiety is the feeling of losing control. It tells us, you cannot know the future. You cannot guarantee anything. You cannot protect everything. And instead of listening, Kierkegaard did what many high-intellect minds still do. He tried to control the anxiety with thought, but thinking only sharpened the insecurity. Freedom, for him, was no longer an opportunity to live, but a reminder of every possible way things could go wrong. Kierkegaard saw too many possible outcomes to the point he forgot one simple truth. Life can only be lived one decision at a time, not through 1,000 assumptions. And at that moment, anxiety, the universal sentence of intelligent minds, began shaping his destiny. There is something both fascinating and deeply sad about intelligent people. When they hurt, they don't cry, they analyze. Instead of feeling their heart tighten, they begin searching for causes. Instead of facing sadness, they break it into theories. Instead of admitting, I am hurting, they say, emotion is a biopsychosocial mechanism. That is intellectualization, a defense mechanism so refined that if you're not careful, you will mistake it for strength, when in truth, You are just running away. Kierkegaard was the perfect example. When confronted with love, he did not allow himself to feel. Instead, he turned every emotion into a philosophical problem. He was hurting, he wrote about the nature of pain. He was anxious, he analyzed the structure of anxiety. He was terrified, he described it as an existential argument. And the remarkable part is this: he did it so brilliantly that the whole world admired him. No one knew that those magnificent pages about anxiety, freedom, and being were born from a heart too afraid to face itself. Intellectualization may earn admiration, but it paralyzes the person who uses it. Why? Because when we analyze emotions instead of experiencing them, we delay healing. We reject the truth and are. We keep ourselves forever outside of life. Intellectualization is a beautiful shield, but it is also a silent prison. It allows us to do something unbelievable, protect ourselves from all emotion. By making ourselves unable to feel anything, we no longer hurt, but we also no longer love deeply, no longer live fully, no longer connect genuinely. That is why intelligent people can articulate humanity's suffering with exquisite words, yet cannot express their own pain in a simple sentence. I'm tired, I'm scared, I'm sad. Kierkegaard, in all his genius, used his mind to avoid his heart. And every time he analyzed instead of feeling, he stepped further away from his real life. There is an illusion that many intelligent people carry throughout life, that understanding everything will free them from suffering. But life operates by a brutal rule. Understanding does not equal healing. Knowledge does not equal overcoming. Analysis does not equal acceptance. Kierkegaard knew this, but he could not live it. He could explain why humans feel anxious. He could analyze the nature of freedom. He could write about loss with words that make the world weep. But when his own heart was wounded, all that knowledge became useless. This is the tragedy of the overly intelligent. They know how to explain pain, but not how to endure it. Do you recognize this in yourself? When something bad happens, we immediately look for the reason. When someone leaves us, we try to analyze why. When life collapses, we try to model it to understand it. We believe that if we find the answer, the pain will lessen. But there are things that, even if you know 1,000 reasons, still hurt like the first time. You can understand why the one you love left. Understand the logic. Understand their personality. Understand the circumstances. Understand everything. But you cannot analyze your way out of a breaking heart. You can understand why a loved one died, but you cannot write an essay to bring them back. You can understand why you failed, but no formula can erase the feeling of loss. The harshest truth of life is this: the most important things lie beyond the reach of intellect. And intelligent people like Kierkegaard are particularly prone to getting stuck here, because they are used to thinking their way through every domain. So they believe they can think their way through pain. But pain is not a problem. It does not let you win. It only lets you go through it. And when Kierkegaard finally realized this, he began to understand all the intellectual structures he had built for so long were only ways to postpone the truth, a truth that everyone must eventually face. There are things that cannot be understood. They can only be lived through. Intellect is a great gift, but for people like Kierkegaard, it is also a curse wrapped in silk. The world looked at him and saw a genius, a man who could express loneliness, existence, death, freedom, through words that would take generations to fully comprehend. But inside him, that brilliance did not exist. There was only the cold stillness of a mind that was always thinking and never resting. That is the tragedy of intelligent people. They can never turn off their brain. Even when their heart desperately needs to breathe, others can cry, lean on someone, express themselves, and be vulnerable. But those who are too intelligent often feel ashamed to do so. They believe they must be strong, must understand, and must analyze everything. Otherwise, they feel inadequate, so they choose silence, choose to hide, choose to play the role of the one who understands everything, even when their inner world is empty. And society traps them even deeper. Because society admires those who can articulate what others only vaguely feel. And when an intelligent person knows how to describe the world's pain, the world applauds, but no one asks, "And what about your own pain?" Kierkegaard understood humanity's loneliness, but no one understood his. He explained the meaninglessness of life, but no one touched the meaninglessness in his soul. He analyzed human insecurity, but no one saw his own trembling when standing before the woman he loved. A genius celebrated on the outside, but abandoned on the inside. This is the paradox of highly intellectual people. The more they are praised, the lonelier they become. The more they understand, the harder they are to understand. And sometimes, those who help humanity feel less lost are the very ones who don't know the way home to their own heart. After all the thinking, all the analysis, all the loops spinning inside consciousness, the irony is that the key to escaping suffering does not lie in intellect, but in our very own body. A body that most intelligent people ignore. When Kierkegaard drowned in anxiety, he turned all his attention toward the mind. Why am I anxious? What is the nature of anxiety? How does freedom create dizziness? How do humans exist among endless possibilities? But there was one thing he could not do, the same thing most of us cannot do. Turn downward and listen to what his body was feeling, because emotions do not live in thoughts. Emotions live in the tightening chest, in the shortened breath, in the tense abdomen, in the heavy shoulders. The heart does not speak in language. It speaks in signals. And when we are too intelligent, we ignore those signals. In psychotherapy, there is one question so important that it can pull someone out of the spiral of overthinking. Where is that feeling located in your body? Not why, not where did it come from, not what does it mean, just where is it? Because emotions, before they can be understood, must be felt. And when we return our attention to the body, to the actual sensations, the contractions, the warmth, the pulse, we begin to step out of our mind and back into ourselves. This is where healing begins, not by finding new answers, but by finding the feelings we have tried to forget for so long. Kierkegaard could interpret the entire universe, but he never learned how to face an unsteady heartbeat, a broken breath, a small tightening in the chest when missing someone. And many intelligent people are just like him. They live in their mind for so long that they forget the body is where emotions actually reside. There is one thing intelligent people excel at, understanding, and one thing they are terrible at, accepting, because understanding allows them to feel in control. But acceptance means letting go of the right to explain, letting go of the right to know why, letting go of the right to predict the future. And that is what makes intelligent people more anxious than anything else. Kierkegaard was the same. He could analyze every dimension of anxiety, but he could not accept that anxiety is a natural part of loving. He could understand every layer of existence, but he could not accept the fragility of his own heart. Humans only heal when they dare to accept one truth. There are emotions that do not need to be explained, they only need to be allowed to exist. You're angry? Then be angry. No need to understand immediately. No need to interpret. No need for reasons. You're sad? Then be sad. Stop trying to justify it with 100 logical arguments. You're scared? Then admit you're scared. Not everyone who fears is weak. Only those who dare to say they're afraid are truly brave. The problem is this: intelligent people often treat emotion as a puzzle to solve, instead of an experience to live. But healing begins with this simplicity. You must allow yourself to feel, then allow yourself to understand, not the other way around. Play a piece of music that makes your heart ache. Write an ugly, messy, misspelled journal page, but write it truthfully. Let yourself cry for a moment. Let the body speak for the mind. It doesn't need to be beautiful. It doesn't need to be logical. It doesn't need to be correct. It only needs to be real, because some things, if you do not accept them, they will follow you for the rest of your life in different forms. Kierkegaard spent his whole life understanding humanity, but he never truly accepted the human being inside himself. And that is why he suffered. In the end, all analysis leads back to one simple truth. Humans do not live by arguments. Humans live by values, not by "I think I should," but by "I feel this is right for me." That is what Kierkegaard and many intelligent people lost. He spent his entire life explaining human nature, but he never lived by the things that made his heart move. He always chose what was reasonable, even when it completely contradicted what was true to his heart. And this truth is so painful that those who understand it fall silent. The most important choices in life never come from the mind. They always begin in the chest. Like love, like attachment, like trust, like knowing where you belong. No one loves through logic. No one sacrifices through argument. No one lives fully through thought alone. Values, the things that truly matter, are always the things that feel right, even before you can explain why. And this is what confuses intelligent people. They are used to everything requiring a reason, a model, evidence. But values do not need proof. They only need to be lived. Look around. How many people stay in a job they don't love just because it is safe? How many people abandon an important relationship just because they fear being hurt? How many people lose themselves just because what they feel is right is not logical? We don't know. But perhaps Kierkegaard felt this more clearly than anyone. He loved Regine, but his intellect pulled him away. He wanted to live fully, but fear of being wrong led him to choose solitude. He longed for connection, but logic made him break the last bond tying him to life. And so, he lived a life philosophically correct, but wrong in the language of the heart. In the end, a person may understand everything, but if they do not live according to their values, all understanding turns to ash. So what are values? They are the things that make you feel peaceful when you think of them, the things that make you feel alive when you walk toward them, the things that need no justification because feeling them is enough to know they're right. Living by values is not living by what seems fine, but living by what makes you who you are. And that is something no amount of intelligence can replace. At the end of his life, when everything had settled, the fame, the philosophy, the pain, the unfinished writings, Kierkegaard left humanity one sentence, perhaps the truest he ever spoke. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. He spent his entire life understanding love, understanding anxiety, understanding freedom, understanding absurdity, understanding the human heart. But in the end, he learned one truth so simple it hurts. Understanding does not help us live. Only living helps us understand. He looked back at his love for Regine, looked back at the letters unsent, looked back at the moments he ran away, looked back at the years he let philosophy defeat his own heart. And in that stillness, he knew there were things that should have been felt, not analyzed, should have been cherished, not dissected, should have been held onto, not released out of fear. But life is exactly like that. It teaches us only when everything has passed, when the one we should have kept is gone, when the opportunity has closed, when the heart has been left in darkness for too long. And the most painful part is not that he lost Regine. The most painful part is that he understood love only when love was no longer there. But right there in that final silence, the lesson for us becomes clear. Do not let your mind steal what your heart wants to keep. Do not spend your whole life understanding and forget to live. Do not analyze happiness until you drop it. Maybe you are standing before something that makes your heart tremble. A person, an opportunity, a relationship, a dream. And maybe you are analyzing it too much, waiting for the right time, searching for logical reasons, fearing, like Kierkegaard, that you are not good enough, not worthy enough, not safe enough. But remember, life does not wait for you to finish understanding before letting you live. It happens right now, in each heartbeat, each small decision, each moment you dare to feel, dare to love, dare to move toward what is right for you. And the final question, for you, the one listening to this story, do you want to understand life, or do you want to live it? And that's the content of this episode. If you feel a sense of resonance with these reflections, don't forget to follow the channel and stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. See you soon. Bye.